Right. So today we're still going through these Psalms and these Christmas promises through the Bible. And today is Psalm 22's, but also just looking at Psalm 22, 23, and 24. But it's Psalm 22's promise of Christmas, which is actually a promise that in this psalm we see Jesus himself, when he's on the cross, is actually looking back to this Christmas event, and he's being encouraged by this promise that's been given. So let's just read a little section of 22 and then look into why it's so encouraging even to Jesus. Right, I'm going to read Psalm 22 verse 7 to 11. Now, this is Jesus on the cross, and we're getting this image of him, this prophecy. All those who see me ridicule me. They shoot out the lip, they shake the head, saying, "He trusted in the Lord. Let him rescue him. Let him deliver him, since he delights in him." But you are he who took me out of the womb. You made me trust while on my mother's breasts. I was cast upon you from birth. From my mother's womb, you have been my God. Be not far from me, for trouble is near, for there is none to help. Now, the reason that Christmas is so exciting and such a fantastic event is because of who was born on it. It is the birth of this Jesus. And the reason that we're so amazed and loving this birth of this guy, this Jesus, is because of who he is. He is God with us. He is this light and life. He's the source of everything good and God in the universe. He's the source of everything and the meaning of life. It's Jesus. So we're thankful for Christmas because of who Jesus is, but we're also thankful for this salvation plan that Jesus brings about. Because of what Jesus is going to do, everybody can be saved. Now, this salvation plan has, if we remember in Genesis, that's when the Lord sets out this plan, this summary. Eve is promised to Eve, you're going to have a child, so someone's going to be born, really the Lord is going to be born, and he's going to defeat the devil. He's going to reverse this curse, fix everything. Now, the way that this salvation plan happens is that Jesus is born, then he suffers and dies for all of us on the cross, taking all of that curse, all that evil, all that mess. He puts that on himself and he dies with it, dealing with it forever and ever. But that's not where the salvation plan ends, because Jesus then resurrects, new life, and then he ascends into heaven. And that is where he is right now. That's this hope and trust. So that is this salvation plan which Jesus is following. He knows that this plan has been there since the beginning, since he promised it to Eve, and he's following this plan. But if you remember on the cross and at Gethsemane, Jesus is having to remind himself that this salvation plan, which has been in place since the beginning, is going to happen just as he promised. He's got to trust in this salvation plan, that he's going to face death, but he's going to be resurrected. He's going to come back. Now, in this moment, Psalm 22 is talking about how Jesus is going to die. But then when he dies, the whole church will join him in praise. And then Psalm 23 continues on. 23 is talking about Jesus as he's dead, or as he's facing death. He was not going to be afraid, because and verse 6 of 23, he's going to spend the rest of his life back with the Lord, living with the Lord again. And then Psalm 24, this next step in this salvation plan. Psalm 22, Jesus is going to die. Psalm 23, he's not going to be afraid. He's going to come back. And then Psalm 24, Jesus is going to ascend to heaven. That's this salvation plan. 22, 23, and 24 lay it out, how everybody's going to be saved by this Jesus Christ. But that's the plan. Now Jesus has to trust it. Trust that the Father is going to resurrect him as he promised. And the way that Jesus reminds himself that this is going to happen, everything's happening according to plan, is this Christmas promise. But you are he who took me out of the womb. Jesus, who is this eternal God the Son, is going to be born, and it's this birth. Jesus reminds himself, like, yeah, because Christmas happened, because this birth happened, everything else is going to happen according to plan. Everything's going to be all right. The Father's got me because he made this birth happen according to plan. And that's how even on the cross, as Jesus is facing death, this Christmas encouragement and promise is still affecting him, even though he's the one it's about. But he remembers it, saying, yeah, everything's happening according to plan. This salvation plan is going to happen. And it's going to happen because Christmas is the beginning of that salvation plan. So that's this promise that Psalm 22 and 23 and 24 are talking about. This Jesus Christ and all that he will do. But first, he's got to be born as a human for it all to start.